They say neighborhoods are quiet until they're not. Ours was the kind of place where you'd expect lemonade stands in summer, polite waves from across the street, maybe the occasional barbecue if someone felt particularly brave. But beneath all that vinyl siding and lawn fertilizer was a ticking time bomb named Beverly Holleran. Now, Beverly wasn't your average HOA busybody. She'd turned neighborly concern into a full-blown regime. 20 years chairing the HOA board, 20 years writing rules that somehow always targeted the same people. Young adults, renters, immigrants, basically anyone who didn't fit her curated postcard of suburban perfection. I didn't realize what kind of war we were walking into until the day my son came home. Ben had just finished his freshman year at Gulfside State. He'd planned to spend the summer in the dorms doing a paid internship, but a busted pipe flooded half the residence hall, and the university basically told everyone to scatter for repairs. So he came home, with a laundry basket full of wrinkled clothes, a Honda that hadn't been washed in months, and a grin that made me think, yeah, maybe we did something right raising this kid. My wife, Elise, had just returned from an 18-month deployment with Naval Intelligence. She was trying to pretend she was readjusting to normal life, organizing spice racks and humming random sea shanties while sorting out her uniforms. I was out back manning the grill, daydreaming about burgers and peace, and not a single confrontation in sight. And that's when it started. Ben had barely stepped out of the car when we saw Beverly storm out of her house like she'd caught someone spray painting her azaleas. She had her phone out before she even hit the sidewalk, and the look on her face? That wasn't concern, that was pure, weaponized suspicion. She made a beeline for Ben's car like she had a badge and a warrant. "Excuse me, young man, are you aware that this is a family residential zone with regulations against unregistered occupants?" Ben blinked like she'd just accused him of smuggling contraband. "Ma'am, this is my parents' house. I live here." Wrong answer. Her face pinched like she'd just bitten into a lemon. "There's been no registration of a college-aged individual at this address. You're violating HOA occupancy standards. This is a safety issue." I'll admit, I was halfway through my burger prep, thinking maybe this was just a misunderstanding. But then I saw her pull out a notepad. She started circling Ben's car, muttering into her phone. "Vehicle dusty. Male appears 20. Possible connection to unsanctioned social groups." That's when I felt Elise step up behind me. She wasn't saying anything, just watching from the kitchen window. There's something in the way she stands when things get serious, like a storm deciding where to land. Elise didn't yell, she didn't threaten. She stepped outside in her Navy PT gear, calm as anything, and said, "Ma'am, would you mind explaining what exactly is going on here?" Beverly turned, saw Elise, and, bless her delusional heart, thought she'd found backup. Finally, another adult! This boy is endangering community cohesion. He's a transient, an unknown element, and I've already contacted authorities. That word, transient, hit me in the gut. That's not something you say by accident. That's coded language. Elise didn't flinch. She pulled out her phone and said, "Well then, I'm sure you won't mind me recording this." That's when Beverly should have backed off. But she didn't. She doubled down, said she'd be filing formal complaints with the HOA board, zoning enforcement, maybe even code compliance. She kept throwing out terms like unauthorized presence and family integrity standards, as if she were reading from some suburban security playbook. Ben just stood there, quiet, respectful, but straight-backed, like the man we raised. "Ma'am, I'm not going anywhere," he said. "I belong here." That moment stuck with me. He didn't yell, he didn't try to explain himself more than once. He just stood his ground. Later that night, we thought maybe it was over. just one bad interaction. But we were wrong. The next morning, 6:47 a.m., I heard Beverly's voice again, this time from down the street. She was harassing the teenage girl from the Martinez family, accusing her of unauthorized vehicle movement because she was leaving early for her job at the cafe. I watched from our window as Beverly circled the girl's car, phone out, filming, throwing out legal-sounding nonsense about noise ordinances and youth curfews. Elise didn't say a word, just handed me her backup phone and said, "Start documenting everything." That's when I realized Elise wasn't just reacting, she was building a case. She'd seen people like Beverly before, overseas, in intelligence reports, behind podiums pretending to be leaders. She was done letting this woman stalk our neighborhood unchecked. We started connecting dots. Talked to Linda from 3 blocks over. Turns out her son got the same treatment. So did the Tran family, and the Ningians, and a single dad from Ecuador who left the neighborhood last fall after too many warnings. What they all had in common? Teenagers, immigrant backgrounds, college students. Beverly had a pattern, a repeatable strategy. She was documenting families, filing complaints, fabricating surveillance, all to push them out. And when Elise called the FBI tip line and gave her name, rank, and credentials, things moved fast. Turns out, Beverly wasn't just an overzealous neighbor. She was the local coordinator for an entire network of HOA boards across the region, all tied to a shell nonprofit called the American Community Foundation. They hosted meetings, exchanged notes, even trained each other on how to manipulate bylaws and threaten residents into leaving. Elise turned her dossier into a full-blown counterintelligence operation. Names, locations, financial records, timestamps, verbal patterns, all mapped out like a war board. The FBI asked her to assist in a sting operation, because apparently when a predator's been allowed to operate for too long, it takes someone with real training to bring them down. And then came the day we'd been waiting for. 7:15 a.m. Beverly showed up on our doorstep with 2 men in mismatched suits claiming to be federal investigators. She held up what looked like a printed-off warrant from a bad PDF file and started yelling something about Ben's being under investigation for conspiracy, possible trafficking, and, my favorite, community disruption. Ben stepped onto the porch and calmly asked, "Ma'am, may I see your ID, please?" That's when the first police cruiser pulled up. Then a black SUV with government plates. Detective Morgan stepped out, not smiling, followed by Agent Serena Vega of the FBI. "Mrs. Holleran," Morgan called out, "you're under arrest for impersonating a federal officer, filing false reports, and conspiracy to violate civil rights." And then Elise stepped out behind Ben, but not in yoga pants this time. Full dress uniform, ribbons aligned, the works. "I believe you wanted to see federal ID," she said, pulling out her Navy badge. Beverly froze. I mean completely. Eyes wide, mouth open, breath caught. It was like watching a robot crash mid-update. Agent Vega stepped forward. "Thank you, Mrs. Holleran, for making our job incredibly easy. You've been under surveillance for the past 2 weeks, every word recorded, every document cataloged. And your organization? We've got enough to bring down all of it." Neighbors started coming out. Phones were filming. Beverly's face went from stunned to terrified to utterly broken as the FBI agent started hauling out boxes from her garage. Training materials, cash records, digital logs of meetings across 6 states. That afternoon, Elise got a call from the Department of Justice. They were launching a full RICO case against the Community Foundation for organized civil rights violations. Elise was offered a new role, one she never expected, as liaison between naval intelligence and the DOJ to handle cases just like this. 6 months later, Beverly's house was sold to a young couple with a baby on the way. They showed up with cookies and tears in their eyes. "We heard what happened," they said. "Thank you for making it safe for families like ours." Ben changed his major to civil rights law, said he wants to help other families who don't have a Commander Elise backing them up. And me? I still grill burgers on Sundays, but now I do it in a neighborhood where kids ride bikes, where the Martinez family hosts cookouts, and where nobody checks your mailbox to see if your name belongs there. The HOA still exists, but now it's run by people who actually understand the word community. So, if you've ever been on the receiving end of suburban tyranny, of rules used as weapons and silence sold as peace, just remember, sometimes the quiet families are the ones with the deepest networks, the sharpest eyes,